Hi guys, and welcome to my review for the DUNU Vulkan2. I've had this IM now for quite a while, and I've been listening to it extensively before actually deciding to do this review. And sometimes I like doing this so that my impressions or initial impressions are confirmed with a more lengthy listen. Anyway, the DUNU Vulkan2 comes in a very simple, understated package. I mean, this is the kind of sleeve. In the back, there's some information concerning the usual characteristics of the IM and so on. As for the accessories, very complete. The box brings everything you can possibly imagine. Exchangeable terminations for the cable, an adapter 6.35mm, brings 2 boxes of tips, a cleaning cloth, a very nice carrying case that we've seen already before from DUNU. It brings as well these little protection pockets for the actual IEMs themselves. As I said, it's got 2 sets of tips. I'm actually using these ones here, which are the SS, and these like grey ones here as well. They actually work quite nicely. Nice cable, really nice cable, nothing to be said there. And then of course obviously the IEMs themselves, beautiful CNC machined shell, open back design in terms of the faceplate. They fit, at least in my ears, perfectly. I've got no issues with the fitment of the IEM. Inside they sport 2 DDs and 6 BAs. There's a 10mm for sub-bass duties and 8mm for bass duties, and then 6 BAs, 2 BAs for the mids and 4 BAs for the highs. And the whole premise of the Vulkan2 here was to take upon, at least that's my perception, was to take upon the idea that was created by the original Vulkan, which was kind of a very neutrally tuned IEM in terms of the bass, the mids, everything. And the reality is, when you actually compare the graphs of both of them, you will see there's a very high level of similarity. The biggest differences that jump to mind are straight away in the 100 to 250 hertz region of the Vulkan2. There's a bigger dip there, and then there's a peak at around 7-8 kilohertz that occurs here on the original Vulkan. But otherwise, the overall kind of tuning is very similar. I've also got the DUNU, the Da Vinci. Why? Because it also has 2 DDs, like the Vulkan2, only 4 BAs, and because there's also a very high level of similarity between the tuning of the Vulkan2 and the DUNU. The exception, or the change, the difference here is that while here we have a very neutralish type of bass presentation, although it's tucked and tucked by basically 100 hertz, this is tucked at around 200 hertz. So it's interesting to see how that difference in the point where the bass tucks has changed completely the whole idea of sound. And of course there are other subtle differences, but when I show you the graphs, you'll see what I mean. The similarity between the 2 of them is actually quite interesting in terms of them, let's say from 200 hertz and above, but completely 2 different beasts overall. Also this one, also the DUNU, the Da Vinci only has 4 BAs as well. That's another difference. But anyway, what can I then talk about here? The Vulkan2. The Vulkan2, I think they wanted to take upon the formula, like I said, of the original Vulkan, of the 2 DDs. In the Vulkan, it was a 2 coaxially mounted DDs and 4 BAs. So take upon that formula of neutrality and polish it up a little bit more, make it even more mature, more elegant. And to that extent, I think they've been extremely successful. It is about being really clean sounding, really detailed, and it's an absolute pleasure to listen to an IEM in any sort of tuning. But when an IEM is tuned properly, which I think is the case here of the Vulkan2, is an absolute pleasure to listen to it. And even though it might at times not be the most preferred tuning, okay, I'm sure that not everybody will totally agree with the tuning style here of the Vulkan2, especially in the way that mid bass section there, that 100 to 300 hertz area there has been done. Some might find it a little bit overly lean. The reality is the way that they've done the tuning from that point onwards, so the way they've gradually increased from, instead of just having that dip and then maintaining it neutral and then increasing it at around 1 kilohertz more or less for the pinna gain, no, they've dipped it at basically 100 hertz, it's flat, and then from that point onwards, from about 150 hertz, let's say, it slowly starts rising, and it's that gradual rise of the bass, of the low mids and the mids into 1 kilohertz, and then into 1.5 and 2 kilohertz. It's that slow gradual rise that has made the balance of the Vulkan2 be as successful as I think it actually ultimately ends up being. So we don't notice that disparity of sound. We don't notice that there's sub bass and then there's nothing and then there's the rest. No, it just comes together all very nicely in a very smooth, elegant manner. With, as I said, with the exception of sometimes it would have been nice to just have had a little extra slam, like something like From Dusk to Dawn, a little bit more incisiveness on that initial slam of the song, or Holding On from Gregory Porter, or even Up and Up from Jeff Ryan, or going into something like House of Groove by Eugene Groove. Let me see, Unconditional from Soul Persona. Let me give you another example here. Lazy by Bump to Soul, and Cookie by Bump to Soul as well. The Golden Leaves by the Secret Brothers. You know, these are some of the times that, and you might think, oh, but that's a lot of music, a lot of songs that you just mentioned about, Tony. No, it's not a lot of songs. These are some of the songs where, due to my personal preference of having that incisiveness be just a little bit more overly emphasized, I found that the Vulkan2 was just a little bit on the tame side. It wasn't that it wasn't nice to listen to. It wasn't that it wasn't pleasant, or that or that most of you or some of you will enjoy it. I mean, for example, I had my wife listen to it and she found it was fine. She didn't complain, and it's not that she isn't a valid opinion. No, she has got a valid opinion in the sense that many times she actually picks up on things that I don't even pick up. So I do appreciate her input when she's able to give it to me, and she didn't really find it to be missing in anything, and she has got very much the same musical taste as I do. So I think that this is more of a personal thing than in reality a thing that will affect a lot of people. If ultimately what I'm basically trying to say is, if you like neutrality in terms of the way that things are presented, the Vulkan2 will definitely impress. I mean, Home from Dominic Phil-Aim, absolute, I mean, tremendous. It's just incredible the way that I felt like I was listening to her live. That's basically it. Feel So Good by Diana Reeves, again, absolutely incredible the way that it was doing it. Let me see another one here. I'll Come to You by Pete Belasco. Phenomenal playback. Even an interesting one, Violent by Tupac. You know, I was actually surprised. I wasn't thinking that it was going to actually be able to play it back as well as it did. I thought, no, maybe it's lacking a little bit of that. No, it was actually quite a nice playback. It actually did it very well. Thanks to You by Boss Keggs. Phenomenal again. So, you know, this let's say fail on what I mentioned about, you know, some songs lacking a little bit, is more of a personal preference of how I like to listen to those songs than probably is the reality for most people listening to them. I mean, another song that I like listening to, and it's one of the songs I like really, Bottom Cycle Blues by Raoul Maiden. I mean, honestly, listen to it. That's the best I can say. Bottom Cycle Blues by Raoul Maiden. I think it's a song that you guys should take into, you know, get that song, even though it might not be a musical style that you like. Listen to it on your IEMs, and it's a very revealing song in an IEM's ability to be dynamic, to be engaging, to be capable of resolving complexities. You know, so that's a song I definitely recommend. Um, Lost Without You by Streetwise. Another song that I think is an also interesting one to have to then compare certain things, because I mean, look, fine, we all have our preferences, you know, that's a reality, but then there's music genres, or there's styles of songs, or there's music that will reveal more easily the shortcomings of an IM, or its abilities to do something really well. And these two songs, or two of many other songs that I have, but these two songs in particular are songs that I really enjoy listening to. Butter by Boney James, same thing. You know, really, I mean, really impressive the way that it's actually able to play it back. Longing For by Jacure. You know, even this, which is a reggae, I was impressed again by how well the Vulkan2 actually did it. I was really impressed. But anyway, look, this playlist that I use, which is the Acros Ultima, I usually have it in my reviews, so you guys can go and look it up in the description section there, and see the link to my Spotify for it, and then have a listen to the you know, whatever songs there are there. It's like I think 300 songs that I like, or that I usually like listening to more often. So that's it. In terms of bass, it's a very high quality bass, If there's anything that I have to point, is that maybe a little bit of extra energy here and there would have been welcomed for my personal taste. Otherwise, in terms of quality, amazing. Okay, mids, I like this slow rise, you know, that it's really well executed. It is able to make up for maybe that little lack of intensity on the transition from sub bass into bass. And so the low mids and the mids, the vocals in general, albeit male, female vocals, phenomenal. Honestly, seriously, one of the IMs that lately did impress me very much, so in that department of mids and so on, and vocals and so on, was the Astral from QE Ears. I mean, I'm not gonna say that the Astral is better or worse. I'm gonna say that the Astral kind of is an IM that, you know, due to its price and everything, I have as a let's say as a reference. Okay, and the Vulkan2 is definitely there. They kind of have the similar style, similar overall style of tuning, a similar price point as well, and I mean, I think that in itself is already, I think, enabling you guys to understand of how well and how, you know, how good or how highly I am praising the Vulkan2. So bass, mids, phenomenal. Extension, perfect. No, I didn't find it to be aggressive. Nothing in terms of its technicalities, micro and macro details, incredible. Soundstage, imaging, all of that, top marks. Nothing to be said. I mean, this is all about being truly capable in terms of its audiophile playback, truly capable in terms of its technical playback. But and I think that's the maybe the secret sauce that they used here, is that when sometimes things are overly technical or emphasize the technicality side of it, they lose a little bit of life. They become a little bit I don't know, lifeless, I guess that's the best way to put it. And I think that DUNU, and I think it's also a testament to their experience. I mean, they've been around for quite a while. DUNU definitely has known, or definitely did know, how to introduce the right amount of life and engagement into the Vulkan2 without making it, let's say, boring or lifeless or sterile. Okay. As compared now to the other two IEMs here, so that you can better position things. Look, the original Vulkan, by nature of how it was tuned and when it came out, it was an IM that I guess wasn't liked by a larger crowd of people, because you had to have, and I think to a certain extent the Vulkan2 will also end up being a little bit of the same situation. I mean, if you listen to EDM and rock, these are not IMs for you, period, you know. Even though they will be able to do those genres half decently, let's put it that way. But the Vulkan it was all about being, audiophile correct, okay? And the Vulkan2 takes that a step further. So it is, yes, a better IM. It is definitely an improvement, and an improvement that's been able to have been made without the price having substantially increased. I mean, this was $300. This is now basically the same thing. So, in that aspect, I can say that, yes, if you've got the Vulkan, is it worthwhile to upgrade to the Vulkan2? If you can get rid of the Vulkan at a half decent value and not have to put too much money to get an improvement on an overall style of sound that you've enjoyed in the Vulkan, then definitely the Vulkan2 is definitely a step up. Definitely. Now, to just sell it for any old value and get the Vulkan2 because you think that you're going to now be getting an IM which is light years better than the Vulkan, no, I wouldn't go that far. Yes, the Vulkan2 is better. If you don't have either one of them and you think you're going to like this style, definitely the Vulkan2 without question. But I mean, be sensible, be wise in the way in what you do. As for the Da Vinci, I think will probably be the one that will please most people or more people due to the nature of it having that extra energy in the bass. And the interesting thing here about the Da Vinci, and I've always said that from day one, is, and once again, testament of DUNU knowing what they're doing, is the balance they've struck here in the Da Vinci is phenomenal. And it isn't just one of the best sounding IMs, I think, at its price point, just for the sake of being. It is a truly spectacular sounding IM. It's got all the clarity that you would need, all the detail that you would need in terms of mids, upper mids, treble, extension past 10K, while giving you that extra oomph in the lower end. So if you are a person that perhaps likes more that little thicker sound from behind, the Da Vinci is a perfect choice for you, okay? If you want that clarity, but more detailed, more emphasis on certain instruments, Vulkan2. They are perfect complements to each other. Then it's not one is better than the other, or no, they are perfect complements to each other. So if you are an owner of a Da Vinci and you would like this, but you would like something a little bit more, let's say, neutral in terms of the bass, Vulkan2, definitely, but not swap one out for the other. I wouldn't say that. Okay, they are complements to each other. And that's basically it, guys. There's really not much more that I can say. Like I mentioned, I mean, I really like the QES, the Astral. I think this is one of the most impressive IEMs out there at its style and everything. Another IEM that, interestingly enough, when I was listening, kind of when I saw the graph here of the Vulkan2 and then of the Da Vinci, also reminded me somewhat of the oh my god, what a blank I had, of what the Vulkan2 is. And I know you guys might think, oh my god, Tony, how the hell can you actually compare one thing with the other? It's actually the Caster Pro. Yes, fair enough, the Caster Pro's got a hell of a lot more bass, without question. That is true. But it's actually interesting to see how KZ and the Caster Pro, they also took that same approach of, yes, they've got a substantial more emphasis on the bass. The bass is more along the lines of the Da Vinci. But the interesting thing about the Caster Pro is how they've also then, after that minimum point of that tucking in is reached, it's then how it gradually rises through the low mids, the mids and upper mids, which is what they've done in the Vulkan. And it confers the Caster Pro, and thus the reason why I'm saying that the Caster Pro reminds me a lot of the Vulkan2 is in the way that then the mids are done. Obviously, the Vulkan2 is the better IM, without question. But, when you take into account that we are talking about an IM that costs under $20, it's just 2 DDs, and that KZ has been able to make a tuning which is so polished, for what it is. I mean, you know, fair enough. Okay, there's issues with driver or consistency in terms of the overall tuning and so on and so forth. Look, what I can say from my personal experience, that's never really been an issue for me. I've got 3 Caster Pros because they were so cheap. I just bought 3 of them just for the sake of seeing how they all measured up and so on and so forth. And what I can say is that nothing to be said against it. It plays phenomenal. It's a really good IM. Initially I was kind of, is it better than the original Caster? Maybe not, maybe yes, but now after listening to it more carefully and extensively and making these comparisons, like I've said, it is a better IM than the original Caster. Definitely, it's using the latest driver, that super linear driver, so it is a better IM. Anyway, guys, let me just quickly show you here the graphs and we'll wrap things up. Okay, guys, so let's talk about the graphs now for the Vulkan2. This is the graph of the Vulkan2, and as you can see, there's that tuck there at around about 100 Hertz, and then that slow, gradual rise, which kind of helps not to there be such a big disconnect between the bass and the mids and the highs. And the sound kind of coming across as one one single wave of sound, let's put it that way. I mean, I can't really say much because I think it's self-explanatory. Yes, we do notice there's a little bit of especially if I put here the original Vulkan, yes, you do notice that there's a little bit missing here in terms of the Vulkans, original Vulkans, to have a little ability to have a little bit more mid-bass slam. Okay, and if I just take away the Vulkan2, you'll see what I mean. But if the Vulkan2 was all about being neutral and smooth, and with even this peak here, it doesn't sound as what you think of graphically. The Vulkan2 takes that a step further, and it's equally as smooth and relaxed, and there's really nothing that I can say, oh no, my god, this is no, it's smoothness. It's all about smoothness. Taking for example the Astral, as I was mentioning, you can see what I was talking about, how similar it is to the Astral and how easy it is to make comparisons with the Astral. The Astral, yes, does have a little bit more weight in the bass, without question, yes, but it will be very much song dependent, and with certain songs you can't really notice the difference. I mean, between 200 Hertz and I would go as far as saying 10 kilohertz, they sound almost identical. Little bit extra extension up top on the Astral. I really didn't notice it, to be honest. And obviously more bass here on the more mid-bass slam than anything else, okay, on the Astral, but very similar. As compared to the DaVinci, again, very similar from 250, 300 Hertz all the way up to the top. Very, very similar. Obviously the DaVinci has a lot more bass presence, but it's again, like I said earlier, they've just always strike this perfect balance. It's not overwhelming, it's not overpowering. It maintains, I would say, 90% plus of the cleanliness of the Vulkan2 with just that little extra warmth, and so it's the perfect complement. I'd say one complement the other. It's the best way I can put it. And just for the sake of, because I mentioned it, so I might as well show it to you. This is the Caster Pro. Let me just make it here in red so it actually stands out. That's the Caster Pro. That's I know you guys will say, oh, but Tony, this is okay, fine. But trust me guys, you would be surprised at how similar they actually end up sounding. In this section here, the graph and what you hear is surprisingly similar. And just for the sake of comparing it with the DaVinci, and I'll just change this to black and put the DaVinci up. Look at that. Interesting, no? Very, very interesting. Anyway, guys, as always, like and subscribe. Any questions, please feel free to ask me. You take care now. Bye-bye.